Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The new long range meta here in Warzone Season 2, honestly pretty competitive. We've got some new contenders in here. We've got some updated setups on some previous weapons that were already pretty solid. And so with that today, I wanted to give you guys all the best long range options here post Season 2 updates. So we're starting first with a pretty standard one since the launch, honestly, the BAS-B. This thing caught some nerfs with Season 2, but they really just affected its close range. Its long range is still just as lethal. Setups are going to be a little bit different though, mainly because they did end up nerfing the Jack BFB. So that, with the decreased velocity, I feel like that's the biggest penalty it was given with Season 2. Not really worth it for the long range on some guns anymore. So instead, I'm just going for the Casus break. This really attacks the stability and then also the horizontal control, which makes the overall pattern here a lot more predictable. And you're going to still be laser accurate with something like the BAS-B, and it's going to melt over the mid to long range, right? Still running the Bruen Venom long barrel here, better range, better velocity, better control, that 3-in-1 combo. We got the Bruen heavy support on here again, helping out that horizontal control. So this pattern is going to be largely vertical and very, very predictable because of that, which is a huge benefit to have on there. We're going for the 45 round mag, basic extended mag here. Then lastly, the 2.5 times eagle eye optic. You're going to see this on a whole lot of setups here today, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This BAS-B setup is relatively consistent with what we were using before, and it's still going to be a fantastic choice. Now, when it comes to rifles, admittedly, there's not many really doing it in the long range meta right now. There's just not a ton of crazy competitive assault rifles for longer ranges. Outside of the SVA, this thing's a laser beam. Quite literally, it's one of the easiest guns to use in the game. It's super, super low recoil, and it's got a fairly competitive TTK in the mid to long range here. So again, a relatively standard setup, all things considered. I go for a suppressor in this case just because it is so easy to use, and Spirit Fire is going to extend that range, increase the velocity, give you better control. Pretty clutch there, all things considered. The precision barrel again is better range, velocity, and control, so you're really stacking that up on this setup. Bruen heavy support yet again, same reasons as before. The 60 round mag in this case works fine for this fire rate. It's totally enough ammo for really any squad size. And yet again, we got that 2.5 times eagle eye optic. When it comes to, you know, just aggressive guns, this is one of my favorites in the game. It's just so easy to use. Anyone can pick up this thing and just fry with it right away. Now we got to talk some snipers. Plural, yes, you heard that right. Snipers for the long range meta here in Season 2. First obvious one, it's the KATT. This has been the go-to long-range meta sniper since launch, since it can one-shot knock to the head at any range with any ammo type you want to use. So initially here, I'm going for the Night's Fall suppressor. This gives us a 15% increase to velocity and doesn't hurt your ADS speed as much as some of the other options. So I'm just sort of balancing that out there. 15% increase up to over 1,000 by the time we have all these attachments on there. Works really, really well in my opinion. I also go for the Zang barrel, again, really just focused on that velocity increase here. And I go for high velocity ammo. It hurts that range a tad bit, but it's giving you 20% to the velocity, which is why this is up over 1,000, which is great for long range sniping, obviously. So that'll work great for that. Then I go for the tac pad stock. This is just simply a better ADS speed, so at least you're a little bit more snappy. Then lastly, I go for the quick pull just behind the face cam here. This is going to allow me to get shots off faster in between firing, so it's just quicker to get those knocks or to get those secondary shots if you don't get that one shot down. Really convenient there if you want the screenshot. Go for it. But yeah, no real changes to the KATT with Season 2, so obviously this is still in the long range meta. Now, I was kind of debating putting the Stalker in the long range meta, but when it comes down to it, I mean, the close range meta is for shotties and SMGs and whatnot. You're not using a sniper in those fights, right? But keep in mind, this can only one shot in its first damage range. So what I've done with this setup in particular is make it as best of a damage range as we can have. What you're focused on here is that effective damage range category in the advanced stats. And you can see I'm up to 83 meters, which is pretty decent. That's pretty generous for a one-shot range. Right now, the ADS speed here is not going to be as fast as it could be, but you've got the best long range option here for that first damage range in general. So you're kind of trading off ADS speed for a better one-shot possibility, right? So Mammoth suppressor here will give you that best damage range out of the muzzle category. Vision 60 barrel, 24% increase to that effective damage range as well. High grain ammo is also going to extend that damage range some, and it helps out with velocity too, so that's kind of a win-win there. And then outside of that, I do go for no stock so I can have that snappier ADS. And then again, just behind the face cam there, I've got the light bolt on there, which is again just a faster rechambering speed, so it's quicker to get those shots off back to back to back. Nice that we actually have multiple snipers in the meta for once, since that obviously was not a thing before. By the way, as we're going through all the setups here in the long range meta, if you enjoy the video or if you find it helpful, do me a favor and drop a like on the video itself. It is always really appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee you're always up to date with all things going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But next up here, we got the brand new BP-50. This thing over range is actually one of the best rifles in terms of true TTK. So that's really a nice bonus to have in general. It actually does hit over longer ranges, but also it's got crazy low recoil. So actually hitting those shots over long ranges, something you can't always do with some of those other top TTK options, is much easier here. So that's a win-win in my book for sure. Initially, I am going for Spirit Fire Suppressor, pretty standard here, right? I go for the Lore 9 Heavy Barrel. This helps out with range, velocity, and control. Surprise, surprise, a pretty standard barrel setup here. Because it's so easy to use, I do actually forego an under barrel, and instead, I go for the Moat 40 stock. This is gonna give me some control here, really helps out with that visual control and a little bit of horizontal and vertical, but then also it gives me some better movement speed, base movement speed, ADS speed, strafe speed, some nice bonuses to have here. And if you can get by with using this and you're comfortable with this recoil pattern, it's really beneficial to use this over something like a Bruen heavy under barrel, which will just slow you down some. On top of that, I also got the 2.5 times Eagle Eye Optic. And then honestly, the main downside of this weapon is the 45 round mag max. It's got a fast fire rate, so going through 45 rounds happens pretty quickly. Luckily, because it's so easy to use, you can be very effective with those 45 shots before you got to reload. But if this were to have a 50 or a 60, oh, it would be just absolutely insane. But for what it is, it works really well. And then we get to our LMGs, and this category still utterly dominates the long range. There's so many good options here, including what's largely just behind the face cam, the DG58 LSW. This thing is so easy to use. It absolutely fries. It's so low recoil, and it's got a crazy good TTK. So initially here, I got the Spirit Fire Suppressor yet again. I go for the Woody Long Barrel, helps out with some stability, some range, some velocity, some control, really makes the gun easier to use. Bruen heavy support. I don't use any extended mag here. 60 rounds works just fine for this fire rate, and it's pretty agile for an LMG, all things considered. 2.5 times Eagle Eye yet again, and then I go for the rubber butt plate. It sounds funny and it works well because it's actually increasing your movement speed here, your strafe speed, your ADS speed, so makes it a little bit more aggressive. And because the gun is so easy to use, you can get by with something like that pretty effectively, right? So I love the versatility of this as an LMG, really fun, and it fries, like I said. Now the Bruen is also putting in the work. This is what I would probably consider to be the new #1 LMG in the game, right? I mean, this thing is pretty low recoil, and its TTK over long range is basically best in game now for fully auto guns like this, so you can't go wrong with it, right? Very reminiscent of that OG Bruen back in Warzone 1. Surprise, surprise, Spirit Fire Suppressor and the Bruen heavy support. On here, I kind of go back and forth between the Horizon barrel. This offers velocity and control, and then also the Ferocity barrel, which offers velocity and range. If you're playing Resurgence, I'd go for Ferocity. If you're playing BR, I'd go for Horizon, just because the longer range gunfights, you want that added control. But this thing, honestly, is pretty easy to use regardless. Again, 2.5 times Eagle Eye Optic. You can tell I like this one. Then I go for the 60 round mag. Really speeds this thing up and makes it more of like an AR LMG hybrid, and it just dominates over pretty much any range, but especially the long range. And then we also got the Holger. This thing is incredibly good now over long range as well, beating out things like the Pelum Yacht, the Eradicator, and it's right there with the Bruen and the DG as well, while also being incredibly easy to use. Like I said, the LMGs are just kind of unfair. They have the best TTK stats, and they're all basically laser beams at the same time too. Again, Spirit Fire Suppressor and the Bruen heavy support. Here we got the factory barrel. This is the added range, velocity, and control in this case. I also go for the 2.5 times Eagle Eye here. No extended mag, just because, again, 60 rounds is totally sufficient for most gunfights you're getting in. And then we got the coolest sounding stock of the day, the Ascent Lord stock, which gives us better stability, which is huge in and of itself. Firing aim stability, this thing's gonna beam. It also gives us better gun kit control and basic vertical and horizontal control as well. So this setup is arguably the easiest to use in the entire game. It works really well. We do actually have an MW2 weapon that I feel like thrives pretty well in the long range meta, the STB-556. I will say it's super limited because you do only have that 42 round mag. That's kind of a bummer, and it's got a faster fire rate, so you run out of ammo a lot, but its TTK is actually very, very competitive over the mid to long range, so it's worth using if you're looking for something maybe a little bit different. I'm still using the 2.5 times Eagle Eye here, and the Bruen heavy support, and the Spirit Fire Suppressor though, so while the gun feels different, the setup's not all that unique, right? I also go for the rear guard. It's a really low recoil weapon, right? So just getting better velocity and better range out of this is totally sufficient, especially when we have the Spirit Fire helping with control, the Bruen heavy helping with control, and this being relatively easy to use by default. It's a solid MW2 weapon. You're probably sleeping on it, but it gets the job done nicely. And then lastly here, I got the MCW 6.8. This thing is basically an aggressive interceptor. It's not gonna like two-shot knock or anything, but it's got a crazy TTK if you can be deadly accurate with it over range. It's got a lot of ammo, so you can spam it even though it's sniper ammo and it's pretty limited. You have a plethora of that because we're running a 60 round drum, which really every other marksman doesn't have. So that's a big standout for me personally in terms of what the true best marksman is right now, right? Bruen heavy support and spirit fire yet again, who would have guessed, and the 2.5 times eagle eye optic. Here though, I am going for the assault stock. This just helps out with general control here. Really convenient that it's going to make it even easier to use over range, especially when this is sort of like a use your own fire rate to determine how bad the recoil is style, right? Because it is semi-auto, you can spam this thing and it's going to have a little bit more kick, or you can kind of just tap it and it'll be really easy to use as well, especially with the recentering that Bruen Heavy offers. So you can really laser beam with this over long range if you're good with semi-auto guns. And that being said, that's the current long range meta. Like I said, you got a lot of really good options right now for sure. All of them pretty easy to use. If you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.